Well, for more on how other countries and companies are trying to tackle the issue of work-life balance, Raegan Burden joins us. She's a lecturer of cultural engagement at the University of Florida. Welcome back to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me again.
So give us your view. Why do you think the shorter work week trial boosted productivity, and how viable would that be for companies in the longer term?
I think that when you look at culture, if you look at it from the perspective of a business, it's really a two-sided coin. One side of it is business objectives. How do we maintain productivity, profitability, and growth? The flip side of that coin is how do we then protect our greatest asset, which are our employees? We are not merely a means to an end. We are the fruition of those business goals. So I think having the understanding that work-life balance becomes important is as much about protecting the profitability of a business as it is protecting the assets, which are the employees and the people that are contributing to that growth. So I think it becomes extremely important to address what is helping us to lose market share. Sometimes that is the culture, the office, how we work that is getting in the way of that.
So what would you say are some other examples of what's being done to make the workplace better in other countries and cultures?
You know, it's interesting. I think if we look at the West right now here in America, Gen Z has, I think, as much as they are at times not as celebrated for their approach to work-life balance, I think what they are promoting is an actual conversation. I think if you look at the industrial complex of America and you really look at the 1950s and 60s, that's a really golden time when you see us creating products, services that not just revolutionized America, it revolutionized the entire way that manufacturing, product development, design. If you look at that, just that 20-year span, you see a different work-life balance. You're there from 9 to 5. You have 1 hour off. If your mother is sick, if your child is sick, there is an understanding that, hey, I may not be here Thursday and Friday, but I will pull a double shift on Monday and Tuesday. So I think if you look in America, we are, I think, at a tipping point of trying to figure out how do we maintain our robust economy without compromising the integrity of the work that we're doing, which comes through, again, the lives of our employees.
And what would you say is the biggest advantage and challenge that comes with introducing some of these workplace culture changes?
I think it honestly comes down to how do you understand that people are humans? They are not robots. I don't care what type of technologically savvy company you may be a part of. There comes a place where you have to understand the resource, the innovation, the creativity that drives all of the technology that really honestly has permeated various industries at this point is coming through the creativity of a person. Older, younger, male, female, right out of high school, right out of the military. And so that person does require some period of adjustment in their own life. Right. No two employees have the same type of life. Some people have special needs children. Some people prefer to work at nighttime. Everyone has a different way that they can work. And I think that companies, their biggest goal is to understand that a 9 to 5 is okay. It can be done. But you have to understand that no human operates in the same continuum. There's fluctuation in that life. So I think many companies here in the West need to become more flexible in their understanding of how their employees need to work. So I think that's the biggest challenge that we're facing.
Now, it's interesting because much like PTO days, when it comes to company perks that are tied to being away from your work or your duties, people don't always use them because there's a stigma that you're slacking off, or perhaps you can't handle the pressure at work. How should companies and governments address the stigma so that what they implement is actually supported?
I believe that that starts with an internal communication strategy for every company. Whether you're a Fortune 500, whether you are a small business owner with less than 10 employees, I think that starts with changing the conversation internally. I think if you can remove that long-held stigma of, okay, if I take paternity leave, if I take this, then I'm slacking off, they're gonna replace me, they're gonna fire me, they're gonna find someone else that can do my job quicker, faster, and may not be better, but it'll be cheaper. You have to change the internal conversation. And I think that that's going to be the #1 way to get that particular ball rolling for a lot of companies in the West. You have to get in front of that conversation internally with your own employees and then follow through on the promises that you make that, yes, you can take this week off. I will not strip your new project. I will not demote you. They have to see it playing itself out over a period of time. But I do believe employers internally have to start by addressing it head on.
Now, you mentioned this idea, obviously, of human beings not being robots, and there is some debate as to whether more technology in the workplace is a distraction or a boost to productivity. Just quickly, what are your thoughts?
I think it depends upon what is your product and what is your service. If I were to look at Amazon right now, who's probably having the best Black Friday ever today, that is a very technologically driven company. It has completely revolutionized how packaging, service, and deliveries and small companies, large companies do direct-to-consumer sales. I don't think America at this point could even operate without Amazon. And I'm sure many business owners could agree with that. It's opened up a completely different model and a completely different supply chain. It is very much driven on technology, codes, computers, regions, shipping, mapping, great. But at the end of the day, who is plugging that information into that technologically savvy company? It's people.
Right.
Again, whether they're older, whether they're younger, whether they're straight out of college, whether they are college students working part-time, it is people that's driving it. So I think that there still has to be a balance, even in technologically savvy companies. There has to be a balance between understanding people are still going to be the creators of the robots that you make to create the innovation. So we're never removed from that process of robotic improvements.
All right, certainly worth keeping in mind. Thank you so much, Raegan Burden there, Lecturer of Cultural Engagement at the University of Florida.